Every year, thousands of recreational boaters walk into a marine electronics store, point at a chart plotter, and make a decision they think is about convenience. It is not. It is a safety decision dressed up as a shopping trip. The ocean does not care what you paid. It does not care what the box promised. What matters is whether that unit holds a signal in squalling rain, whether it renders a channel approach accurately at 6 knots on a falling tide, and whether it is still functioning in year 3 when the conditions that actually test equipment finally arrive. Today, we expose 5 marine GPS units you need to stop buying, and 3 that are genuinely worth every dollar. Number 5. Lowrance Hook Reveal. Lowrance built its reputation on serious sonar and navigation hardware, and the Hook Reveal series takes that reputation and staples it to an entry-level unit whose real-world performance unravels the moment conditions get serious. Lowrance has genuine heritage in marine electronics. Decades of credibility earned on the water by anglers and offshore operators who trusted the name. The Hook Reveal trades on every bit of that trust. You are looking at a price range of roughly $300 to $800 depending on screen size and transducer bundle, and at that number, the compromises are immediate and measurable. The GPS antenna runs a lower sensitivity chipset than Lowrance's own HDS and Elite series, a detail absent from the packaging. Screen brightness sits around 800 nits, which sounds acceptable until you are running a tropical inlet at midday and the display becomes a mirror. Waterproofing is rated IPX7, but field reports from saltwater users document bezel seal degradation within 12 to 18 months of regular exposure. And the CMAP chart tier bundled with the unit is deliberately below what serious coastal navigation requires. Upgrading to a functional chart library adds another $100 to $200 per region, a cost that never appears on the shelf label. Lowrance is owned by Navico Group, itself part of Brunswick Corporation, which operates multiple overlapping marine electronics lines in a deliberate product stack designed to capture budget buyers and funnel them upward through paid upgrades. The Hook Reveal is not the bottom of that stack by accident. It is the entry point engineered to make the next purchase inevitable. Coastal boating forums are consistent. The Hook Reveal is the unit people buy first and replace fastest. If the next entry charges a premium price for the same category of compromise, the gap between promise and reality becomes significantly harder to excuse. Number 4. Raymarine Element. Raymarine is a name that commands genuine respect in offshore and blue water circles. The Element series leverages that respect to sell a unit whose internal architecture sits far closer to the budget tier than the badge suggests. Raymarine is owned by Teledyne Technologies following its acquisition of FLIR Systems, and the brand carries real credibility at the top of its product range. The Element is not the top of its range. You are paying somewhere between $600 and $2,200 depending on screen size and sonar variant, and what you get is a processor that measurably lags behind same price competitors from Garmin and Humminbird. Chart redraw speed and route recalculation are slower in head-to-head tests documented across sailing and powerboat forums. Here is where it gets cynical. Lighthouse Charts, Raymarine's proprietary chart platform, requires annual subscription fees for updated content, typically $50 to $100 per year per region, a cost that is invisible at the point of sale. The Wi-Fi connectivity marketed as a feature depends on the Raymarine app, which carries a documented history of iOS and Android compatibility gaps after operating system updates. The rear connector housing has drawn consistent field complaints about corrosion in saltwater environments within the first 2 years. And buyers who purchase an Element expecting to grow into a full Raymarine network frequently discover the Element runs a forked version of Lighthouse OS that is not fully compatible with the Axiom series, meaning they need to replace the unit rather than expand it. You are not buying a chart plotter. You are buying a chart subscription with a screen attached. The next entry does something more calculated. It locks you into an ecosystem designed to make leaving expensive. Number 3. Humminbird Helix Consumer Series. Humminbird's Helix line is a legitimate sonar platform being sold as a navigation system, and that distinction matters more than the marketing wants you to notice. Humminbird is owned by Johnson Outdoors, a publicly traded outdoor recreation conglomerate, and the Helix platform originated as a freshwater fishing tool before being positioned upward into the coastal navigation market. Units marketed with navigation capability run roughly $300 to $1,000. AutoChart Live, the proprietary mapping feature central to the Helix value proposition, stores your data on a Humminbird-specific card, not a standard chart card. That is not a minor detail. It means the body of chart data you build over seasons of use exists only within Humminbird's format, and you cannot export it to any other platform. Navionics charts are technically compatible, but the integration layer between Navionics and Helix's interface is less seamless than competitors' native implementations, and NMEA 2000 network capability is limited on lower Helix tiers. Adding depth, speed, and wind data to your network requires additional hardware not included at most price points. Software updates for older Helix generations have already been discontinued on units 3 to 4 years old, meaning the support horizon is shorter than the hardware's useful life. Coastal anglers who moved from freshwater Helix used to nearshore navigation report the same weakness. The platform is optimized for lake bathymetry, not coastal pilotage, and when a proprietary card fails offshore, it is not replaceable at a marine supply store the way a standard chart card is. Lock-in architectures extract money on a schedule the manufacturer controls, not you. What comes next is less about ecosystem strategy and more about a fundamental failure to be honest about what the product actually does. Before we get to the two most cynical entries on this list, drop a comment right now. What chart plotter are you running? How long have you had it? And has it ever let you down at a moment when letting you down actually mattered? Tell us below. Let's continue. Number 2, Garmin Striker. The Garmin Striker is among the best-selling marine GPS units on the market today, and it does not include charts. A distinction Garmin's marketing consistently blurs, and one that has put real boats in real danger. Garmin is the dominant force in marine GPS with genuine engineering credibility across its product range. The Striker sits at the absolute bottom of that range and shares none of the architecture that earns Garmin its standing elsewhere. You are paying somewhere between $180 and $600 for a unit with a GPS receiver and no preloaded charts. Your position appears as a dot on a blank grid with no coastline, no depth contour, no channel marker data. Garmin's product pages describe the Striker as a GPS unit prominently. The absence of charts is technically disclosed, but in language that a significant proportion of first-time buyers do not register before purchase. The warranty is 1 year, which is standard for the category, but notable given the failure mode. Buyers who use the Striker for navigation and encounter unmarked hazards have no recourse because the unit performed exactly as designed. Return rates on the Striker at major marine retailers are elevated specifically because buyers purchased expecting chart plotter capability and received a fish finder with a coordinate readout. Recreational boating safety organizations document a consistent pattern in navigational error incidents. Operators running GPS units that showed position without chart context. The Striker is the market share leader in precisely the price bracket where those buyers are shopping. Selling a fish finder as a navigation tool to someone who does not know the difference is not a marketing gray area. It is a safety issue with a price tag. The most cynical entry on this list makes that look like an honest mistake. Number 1. Standard Horizon Budget Chart Plotter Line. Standard Horizon built a reputation on VHF radios that offshore sailors trusted with their lives, and that reputation is now being used to sell chart plotters whose engineering cannot meet the standard the name implies. Standard Horizon is owned by Yaesu Musin, a Japanese electronics manufacturer, and the VHF radio line remains genuinely respected. The chart plotter line occupies a different engineering tier, manufactured to a different cost structure, and positioned to capture buyers who trust the badge without investigating what is behind it. Units are long discontinued, with legacy stock or used units running roughly $200 to $400. Screen quality sits at the lower end of the segment. Sunlight readability is consistently rated below Garmin, Navico, and Furuno equivalents at similar price points in comparative reviews from established sailing publications. The CMAP chart library licensed for these units is base tier, with update cycles that have been documented as lagging in areas with active channel management, East Coast ICW inlets, Gulf Coast passages, where chart currency is not a convenience but a safety margin. Customer support infrastructure in North America is thin relative to the brand's market share, with repair turnaround times frequently exceeding 4 to 6 weeks according to user forums. Many models in the line carry IPX5 waterproofing, splash resistant, not submersion rated, on a unit sold for open cockpit saltwater use. No X, no structural commitment to the conditions you'll face, no engineering philosophy that matches the offshore situations where this unit gets deployed, just a name that was earned somewhere else. That is the most corrosive betrayal in any product category. When trust earned by one product is used to move a different product that could never earn that trust independently. The name is doing work the hardware cannot support. The 5 units above were priced for the sale, not for the passage. What follows is built differently, engineered for the crossing, the inlet at dusk, the moment when everything you paid for either shows up or it doesn't. Number 3, Furuno GP1871F. Furuno is the chart plotter brand that commercial fishermen and offshore delivery skippers specify without a conversation, and the GP1871F brings that engineering philosophy to the recreational price tier, without softening the architecture that earns Furuno its standing. Furuno is a Japanese marine electronics manufacturer with decades of commercial vessel navigation supply. The engineering culture is built around the assumption that equipment will be used in serious conditions by people who depend on it, not a recreational assumption, but a commercial one applied to a recreational product. You are looking at roughly $1,200 to $1,600 installed. Furuno's track record on parts availability for commercial servicing means support for older units extends well beyond what consumer tier manufacturers typically sustain. The chart platform, licensed from professional-grade navigation databases, runs update cycles calibrated to commercial requirements. IPX6 waterproofing with a build standard that saltwater charter captains describe as qualitatively different from consumer units. Rear housing, connector design, bezel gasket tolerances that are simply not present at lower price points. NMEA 2000 and NMEA 0183 integration is full and clean. The unit networks with autopilots, AIS transponders, radar, and instruments without the compatibility gaps that plague consumer-tier hardware. Furuno units appear disproportionately in offshore blue water sailing fleet equipment lists, delivery skipper loadouts, and charter vessel inventories, precisely because professionals evaluating equipment on performance, rather than packaging, consistently select them. Sailing publication long-term evaluations note the GP series for screen clarity in direct sun and GPS position, stability in degraded signal conditions. If the people whose professional standing and physical safety depend on their chart plotter consistently choose Furuno, the question is not whether you can afford it. It is whether you can afford what happens when something cheaper fails offshore. The next entry gives you that same standard of reliability at a price point more buyers can reach. Number 2, Garmin EchoMap UHD2 with Navionics Plus. The EchoMap UHD2 paired with a Navionics Plus subscription is the most defensible mid-market marine navigation purchase available right now, not because of marketing, but because of chipset quality, build specification, and a chart ecosystem with genuine operational depth. The EchoMap UHD2 represents Garmin's mid-tier chart plotter engineering, built on the same GPS chipset architecture as the GPS Map flagship series, and distinct from the entry-level Striker in every way that matters. Navionics, owned by Garmin, is the chart platform that independent offshore sailors and coastal cruisers rate most consistently for data currency and coverage depth. The unit runs roughly $450 to $1,300. Navionics Plus adds around $50 per year for full community edit access and live tide and current data. The display rates around 1,000 nits. The specification that separates genuinely usable chart plotters from units requiring a shade cloth in summer coastal conditions. The GPS and GLONASS dual constellation receiver with correction support produces the sub-3 meter position accuracy that coastal pilotage in complex inlets and channels requires. Garmin's 2-year warranty exceeds the 1-year market standard, and the dealer and service network is the deepest in recreational marine electronics in North America. IPX7 waterproofing with a connector design that has not generated the saltwater corrosion complaints that trail thinner tolerance competitors. Navionics community edit layer, user-contributed sonar data, marina updates, hazard reports, is the deepest crowdsourced chart dataset in recreational boating. West Marine's annual surveys show the Garmin and Navionics combination, leading chart plotter choice among buyers with more than 5 years of boating experience. The cohort that has already absorbed the cost of a bad first purchase. It is not the cheapest option. It is the option most likely to be working correctly in year 4 in the rain when you need it. What comes next is what you specify when working correctly is not enough. When you need a standard, the offshore racing community built its equipment lists around. Number 1. Simrad NSX. The Simrad NSX is the chart plotter the offshore racing and blue water cruising community converged on when they needed a unit that treats the ocean as the operating environment rather than the backdrop, and the engineering decisions behind that convergence are measurable, not aspirational. Simrad is a Norwegian marine electronics brand owned by Navico Group, with a product history rooted in commercial fishing vessel navigation in North Sea conditions. Conditions that make most recreational marine electronics look like prototypes. The NSX runs roughly $1,100 to $3,000, depending on screen size and sonar integration. No marketing language, no aspirational specifications. Just a Solar Max HD display rated at up to 1,500 nits with optical bonding that eliminates the condensation between layers problem that ends the usable life of lesser screens in humid marine environments. A quad-core processor that redraws the chart in under a second when you are running an inlet on a rising tide with cross-traffic. Navionics and CMAP chart compatibility with no additional licensing architecture. You choose your chart platform, you own it, it works. Navico's parts and service commitment through the Simrad dealer network covers the NSX for a minimum of 5 years post-production, with active service support across all major U.S. coastal markets and the Caribbean. Fully NMEA 2000 certified, networked cleanly with Simrad Autopilot, radar, AIS, and VHF without bridging hardware. Offshore racing fleet surveys across serious blue water passages and long-distance ocean races show Simrad at or near the top of chart plotter selection among experienced performance sailors. Professional delivery skippers and passage-making cruisers who document their equipment choices show the same pattern. Practical Sailor's long-term evaluation program has rated the NSX platform in the top tier for GPS accuracy, software stability, and build quality in saltwater conditions. The Simrad NSX costs more than anything on the first half of this list. It costs less than a tow. It costs less than a salvage claim. It costs far less than the deductible on a grounding incident, and less again than the replacement unit you will buy after a cheaper chart plotter fails offshore with nothing to show for the money you spent on it. The gap between sticker price and real value in marine electronics has never been wider. 5 of the units covered today were engineered to be sold, not to be trusted. 3 were built by people who understood that the ocean is not a showroom. The math runs in one direction. A cheaper unit that fails, gets replaced, and fails again costs more than a better unit that simply works. Not metaphorically, arithmetically. Ask 2 questions before you buy anything. Does it handle the conditions where you actually boat? And does the company stand behind it past the first year? Every unit on the avoid list fails at least one of those questions by design. The 3 worth buying pass both. Drop a comment telling us what you are running right now. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one. And remember, the sticker price is not the cost of your chart plotter. The passage is. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.